for a motion to approve the agenda, but we are going to be removing item number 9, approve resolution 2022-010, Carroll County burn ban. And under secondary roads, we'll be adding a utility permit.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with those additions and deletions.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Meeting and approval from the Monday, April 11th, 2022 minutes.
Let the minutes read well and make a motion to approve.
I'll second that.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 1, Zach. Secondary roads. Good morning, Zach. How are you today?
Not too bad. Monday. Apologize for the list we have today for me.
Hey, gotta be done sometime,
There's
right?
first thing, I'd like to take care of the utility permit if we can. This one is for Northern Natural Gas. We're basically looking to replace a valve down at the intersection of Apple Avenue and 320th Street. The valve is off on private property, but they have to do a couple line stops in that line to be able to replace the valve. And that will be in a road ditch both along Apple Avenue and 320th Street. So shouldn't be too big a deal. It will take them a couple weeks to get it done, up to a couple weeks to get it done, but don't see any issues with it. Any questions regarding what they're wanting to do?
Why are they having that temporary staging road?
I think part of it is sometimes they have to build the valve, put it together, assemble it and all that. It sounds like all that's being done prior to doing the work. It's gonna come in already put together. So I think all they're gonna have is parking areas. They really won't be that much. This plan was put into place or put together early on. So I don't think it's gonna take that much. The same thing like with the access. I think they're gonna get access across our road ditch using a crane mat with a little, it's like a mini excavator or mid-size excavator they're using. They won't be tracking that far down. They'll be,
Well, I can see the air or the workspace area. I suppose that's because of the gas in case they need to
they need to have a space to be able to park things
back
further away.
away from it.
Right. But there, I don't think it's gonna be as in quite as big of a deal as what they're showing on this there. They're gonna have a lot of the preliminary work already complete as far as the pre-assembly of the valve and what have you,
They're just covering their bases.
pretty much.
So we look for a motion to approve it.
Yes, please.
I'll make that motion to approve the utility permit for Northern Natural.
I'll second that motion.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Next one on the list is talking about our fiscal year 22 program. There's a project I would like to advance. We had this in for fiscal year 23. This is the asphalt work that would happen on E19 southeast of Lanesboro. If you remember, we left that back at the end of March. The contractor is looking like they're gonna probably start or wanting to move in the end of May, beginning of June. So we'll be expending the funds in this current fiscal year. So that's why I'm looking to advance that one forward into fiscal year 22. So essentially, it's just taking that money from fiscal year 23 and advancing it into fiscal year 22. This is not one I printed off for you yet, so this is the one that was emailed. So, but there's not much. I guess it's just advancing the project and the program is all it's really doing. So
What piece, what's that accounting number?
E19.
E19. That's it goes east out of,
Yep.
west out of Lanesboro.
East out of Lanesboro, there's a little stub that goes south. That asphalt's newer, that's fine. But from that intersection there, just south of Lanesboro, the first 2 miles of that is asphalt. Those are real bad shape. The last mile before we get to Greene County is concrete, and that's fine. So it's that first 2 miles from that intersection.
We'll make that motion to approve your change.
So are we approving the resolution or are we approving
It's
the revised?
it's a resolution to revise the 5-year program. Sorry, I should
I
explain.
just want to
that.
make sure what.
Yep.
which ones are on.
They call this one a resolution. The budget, they don't call it a resolution. That's just a revision to the budget. So this one is a resolution.
515,000.
Yep, I believe the contract amount was just under that. That's why I'm,
There's been a motion.
I'll second that motion.
And with it being a resolution, Courtney, do we do roll call?
Okay, Preston,
Yes.
Puddles,
Yes.
Shepherd.
Yes,
Johnson.
yes,
Miners,
Yes,
the motion carries.
so when are they gonna start then?
I believe the end of May is what they're thinking.
That won't take long.
No, it really shouldn't. I mean, it should be a week for the asphalt would be a lot. I don't think it's gonna take that long. We'll have to mill and then asphalt and Carroll shoulders. So
Let me go on to item B.
yep, now we're going to B. This is review and approve the revised fiscal year 22 budget. So this is doing two things. One, it's again, moving dollars into the construction for that project to match the program, basically. I've also adjusted the revenues to include the bridge replacement funds we're gonna get for and the bridge N3. We had the expenditure for that in the budget, but the revenues were not in that budget. So I showed those numbers coming in, that 360,000 approximately that we'll be getting for that through our VR fund. So those two items is what is being changed on the fiscal year 22 budget. Any questions on that?
This is also in our county budget amendment as well. So you guys look through that, but
Yep, it'd be talking about the same thing. It's essentially doing it
This
twice,
is
but it's
copy
one,
for everybody.
this is for the DOT budget. This one is not a resolution.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the revised fiscal year 22 Iowa DOT budget.
I'll second that.
Alright, there's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, review and approve fiscal year 23 Iowa DOT 5-year program and budget.
So this is the what we have hard copies of. The first stapled together is the actual program show listing all the projects. Probably the best way to look at that is the next sheet, the color coded one. The next two sheets, they the map color codes with that sheet, so you have a I just thought that the Excel spreadsheet that's color coded kind of matches a little bit better than trying to look through the program and finding each project. The fiscal year 23 is the accomplishment year, the green in the green. That matches up with what we did in our local budget when we talked about back in January. The 4 projects we have in there is the G9 Trust Bridge, using swap funding for that or BR funds. Doing our the shoulders down on M66 in Manning. Getting the right-of-way purchased for those shoulders down on M66 in Manning. And then right now it's a placeholder. It's got that Lanesboro E19. I'm just matching what the local budget has. Obviously, that's going to be spent in fiscal year 22. There could be some retainage dollars that still come out of in fiscal year 23, because obviously we won't have that paid. But that's why that project is in there. But it'll only be obviously spent once between the 2 years. So as we go forward,
Is that truss bridge, is that gonna be replaced with a bridge, or is that gonna be a box culvert?
that'll be a bridge. That one's, I think that's don't quote me, but I think maybe close to a 55 to 60 foot bridge now. And it'll probably be an 80 or a 90 foot bridge going back. So that's over Storm Creek. So. As you go forward in years, things are, I guess, a little less set in stone, but our plan is to, if we can get the right of way bought and the shoulders done and Manning this next fiscal year, we'd be looking to repave M66 south of Manning in fiscal year 2024, using local dollars for that. And then we also have the P7 bridge replacement in there. That would more than likely be a box culvert going back in on that one. If you got questions, stop me.
I guess the only question I would have on that G9 truss bridge, are we constructing those to increase the weight?
Yes. I mean, well, 2 things. It'd be, there's width restrictions on that. I believe that's a 16-foot wide bridge. It's very narrow, and it's posted. I'm not sure what it's posted to. 16 ton, maybe something like that. It might even be less than that. It might be 10, 16, 20 or something like that. So it'd be multiple reasons. It'd be getting the width back out to what our normal is, and then as well as getting the reduced posting gone away, so people can haul regular
Increase.
normal loads across that structure.
So what's normal today?
Well, that's a good question. It's a good question. It will be legal for 40 ton for 80,000 pounds above that. It'll be legal for more than that, but depending on what the legislature does. I know there's a bill that's being pushed in the Senate and the House that is wanting to raise that number to 90,000 pounds all the time. I don't know if that's going to go through or not. I hope it
I think
does.
that's
I don't know where it's going to
even
stop.
that winter and spring thing that proclamation, nuts. These roads ain't built for that. So this will be probably going to 30-foot width on this.
It,
bridge.
it would, it'd be this, that's our standard that we put things to.
And just not only on this bridge, but this conversation's just been brought up. These cement bridges that when we have these signs on them, you know, showing edge of the bridge. What you call them? There's a
Object markers.
Okay. Is there a way we can put those in there? And my gut instinct is to say no, because then we're encouraging these goddamn heads driving down the road. But you know what they're wanting, just to hold them so they can go across that bridge with the head.
I think on a 30-foot bridge, I think that's probably not reasonable. I think 30 foot is a good width. Now, if you have a narrow bridge, that's a little bit different story. We've looked into try and find ones that are more breakaway or something like that. It'd be, the hardest part is they seem to be very easy to be removed, but for them to get put back again seems to be a very difficult thing to do.
Well, and then after I'm thinking about it, if we do that, then we're saying we're kind of encouraging them driving down the road without taking the head off.
Right, and depending what the condition of the bridge is, if it's rated for that weight, that's one thing, but if it's not, that's a whole other scenario. So that's a very fine line, I think.
I just thought of bring it up now, we're talking about bridges.
Yep.
I agree with it, and I think like an auto, they're making them so they can flex.
Yep. And if they stay, that's one thing, but then they get loose with blowing in the wind, and I mean, there's pros and cons to all those, I think. So 2024 would have the M66 resurfacing, as well as that P7 bridge, which would be a box culvert. 2025, and again, as you get out, these could move. A lot of these projects have been in the program for quite some time and seem to get moved around and bumped depending on what comes up with new projects. But L25 is on the Crawford County line. That's programmed for half the amount. The other half would be Crawford. That one I could see getting moved back as well yet, because it's not too bad a shape. It's just it's posted and it is BR eligible. So that's two reasons why that's a candidate on that list. The other three projects are all asphalt projects on there. One is the N33 rehab through Dedham. We're kind of waiting on that, depending on when Dedham does their water improvements down there. So depending on when that happens, that could move around. The other two projects, M68, HMA resurfacing going north of Arcadia up to the Sac County line. That would be using FM dollars. And then 185th Street, which would be the road going east out of Arcadia past the ballpark. That's about the same age. Try to get that done at the same time, maybe using local dollars for that.
That road is getting really short.
It is. 2026, J9, the Homos Bridge. Using federal aid dollars for that. After this year, we'll have to start using federal aid again rather than swap, because of how, with this new bill and how the funding's coming in, the state doesn't have enough dollars to swap money anymore. So we'll be using back to federal aid dollars like it used to be 3 years ago or 4 years ago, whatever it was before that happened. Not a huge deal, but there is some hoops to jump through with federal aid versus swap state dollars, but part of the deal. I
So
guess.
will it stay that way then from then on? Huh?
I would assume so. At least it will through the next 4 or 5 years with that, because that's the increased funding that bill has shown. That's what will happen. So we'll see what happens in the future. Other projects in 2026 is the LO3 Rollingburg Township line. That's a box culvert. It would probably go back as a box, but there's a lot of drop across that one. That's a interesting structure. I'll leave it at that.
This has been in the system for a long time.
It has, and it's
If someone goes off of it,
it's not failing. I mean, it's sound. It's just
But it's more the it's safety.
there is a safety and there's a pretty big plunge pool on the downstream side of it.
Yeah, if they go off of there, I think it's gonna be bye-bye.
The other bridge we have on there is L7, another local bridge that if it's possible to get into DR funding, we will, but traffic count doesn't warrant that at this point. So that's shown using local funds. I believe that would be a bigger box cover as well.
I was gonna say that's a pretty small one.
Mhm. Then 2027, another project that's been on the list for a while is the Drain 12 outlet. That's a bridge. I think that would possibly be able to go back as a box cover as well. Gotta do some more digging into that one a little bit.
So I was looking on the aerial photos last night with this drain 12. Is that smaller one, or is it, it's not the bigger creek to the east? Is it?
I don't think so. I think it's a smaller one,
Yeah.
yes.
I
And
mean,
there's,
it looks to me like it may not always have water in it.
it's not, it's a
Okay.
it's a
I just
different,
want to make sure I had the right spot.
yep, it's a different animal. It's a lot of grade through there.
Yeah, that's what it looked like.
And then the two other asphalt projects on there. One is E26 / N38 HMA resurfacing. So that would be from 71 east over towards Litterdale and the mile south going down there into Litterdale. That road's definitely showing some wear as well. That'd be using some of our FM money as well as some of our STDG, which it would be federal aid now. So the swap would be the same thing as like bridges. They'll be back to federal aid. So next year we'll have to look and get an application put into Region 12 to use those funds to get on the list. But I think that will probably work. And then the last project to pair with that would be E26 from 71 going west through Mount Carmel to N20, the Maple River Road. That road's definitely seeing its age as well. Probably worse shape, a lot lower traffic volume, but it's definitely seen some better days as well. So, and again, whether we can move any of these around, we'll have to see how funding works and how it fits into the schedule. But we're borrowed ahead on our FM account right now, so that's where we're sitting and waiting for some of that money to accumulate so we can do some more projects. That's also the reason why we're trying to do some of this with local money, some of these smaller projects, just to try to keep ahead of the game a little bit.
What is the weight restriction on these box culverts?
On the new ones, greater than a bridge. How much greater, I can't tell you that, I guess. A lot of some of these smaller ones, I think it's significantly more. We generally don't have to worry about if we have an oversized load, even let's say 200,000 pounds. No. And they design them with the thickness of the top and bottom is the big thing. With that thickness and depending how much cover they have on top of the box, they generally can hold quite a bit. It's definitely a good situation. It's a good, I guess, replacement for a bridge if it's possible.
Yeah, that's definitely an improvement. If you're replacing a bridge.
It gets us out of the guardrail situation and all that. It's better for weeds, for snow, for everything.
And most bridges been on there since I've been here, but it's not the last year. Usually it's in the last year. Moving up in the world,
It bounces around.
not a lot of car count. That's the problem.
There's not.
A lot of,
Tricky
there's,
space too with the curb right there.
And that's why that's expensive, is because that's gonna take room. That's not the bridge under, that's realignment of the road and
you've got, yeah, there's a lot of hoops to jump through on that one.
any questions on the 5-year program?
Spent a little over $1 million this year on that,
On what?
on all the projects, about $1 million.
Yep, yep, and it'd be actually less than that if this Lanesboro job gets done in 22.
Yeah.
That dollars would come off of 23, so. But I also am expecting that right away number will probably go up. It's probably gonna be higher than what that was planned for back in.
Yeah, it's
in
been a
January.
few years.
So,
I had some ground down in last weekend, so if I down there. I think it's 10-8.
We are in order for a motion to approve the 5-year program for secondary roads.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
thank you. Now we got the fiscal year 23 budget that goes along with the program. You've seen all these numbers before. They're basically identical to what we talked about when we were here for the local budget. Nothing's really changed in there. The auditor's balance will change based on what we actually have for expenditures. Obviously, like that Lanesboro project is to some extent in there twice, so that there'll be some savings there. But otherwise, that reflects what the past 2 years have been, I guess, on the second prior and first prior years. And then where we're budgeted for fiscal year 22 and where we're planning to go for fiscal year 23. If there's any details you want to look at, we talked about that kind of when it was local budget time, but otherwise nothing's changed from that. If you have any questions or want to talk details on any of that, we can, but from the expenditure standpoint and a revenue standpoint, I believe it's identical.
You're looking for motion on that?
Yes,
I will
please.
So move.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
Next thing on the list is the contract and bond for the E19 asphalt project with Inroads. I believe that was 2 weeks ago when I was here and we talked about how the bids came in. Nothing's changed on that. Obviously, the $512,409.38 is the contract price for those 2 miles. Contractor supplied their performance bond and certificate of liability insurance. Everything looks to be in order. It's our standard contract that we always use for local projects. Nothing out of the ordinary.
So how much was this above your estimate?
I do not have that number with me, but if I remember right, it was.
I mean, it wasn't really that bad compared with the prices. Of
It
oil.
wasn't. I mean, I think the estimate was a little bit low. It might have been 70,000 over the estimate, but
That's,
oil's gone up, and I mean, really, I think fuel's a big driver in all of it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest drivers. So I think we still are a little bit lower than what current prices are, because we were able to kind of piggyback onto some oil prices they had locked in. But unfortunately, that's just where we're at right now. And I don't know if it's going to be getting cheaper anytime soon.
I don't see anything getting cheaper. Well, I'm glad to see that one of these major companies got it.
Yep.
This is a good company.
Yep, the Inwards has done good work for us in the past. Newer company, but a lot of the same people from others, so. Definitely. don't have any
So when
issues.
do they think they're gonna be able to do this?
They're thinking end of May is what their thought
Okay.
is.
Well, that's good, because the last projects, I remember, they had a hard time getting to them,
Mhm. Yep.
you know.
Their very first year, they
They kind of
overbooked
struggled that
themselves.
way,
They
yeah.
overbooked themselves. That was, they were new at it.
Yep.
It showed.
I know this is basically, I think will be like their second project. They have a job in Sac County, like a 10-mile job. Excuse me, that they'll be going to first. And I think they're coming to this next after that is their plan. Obviously that could change, but that's their intent, I think. So, because the plan will be up in Wall Lake, I believe.
That's a small little stretch.
Mhm.
That's a small little stretch for them,
Right. It really won't take them long.
a couple miles.
2 copies of the contract and 2 copies of the bond.
I'll make a motion that we authorize the chair to sign the contract for the project for inroads for LFM E19 7X-14.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. A couple drains next. First one is drain 82 up in the northern part of the county, near the intersection of 110th Street and Ivy Avenue, section 9 and east. Basically just a 10-inch line that's got a sinkhole in it. Haven't seen very many in the last couple of years with the amount of rain we've had, but
Yeah,
it's there.
I was thinking the same thing this weekend. It's been a long time since we've seen one of these.
we've hadn't had any testers.
No, so I guess that's good, but we know they're there. It's just a matter of when they show
Yeah,
up, so. Have not done the work on this one yet.
That's not it.
Mhm. He farms this
He
one.
does from that. Okay,
Yep.
that's what I remember.
This is drain 82, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And the funds in there for that, do you know?
I'd have to look. I think it probably is, because this won't be too big of a repair.
Okay.
Like I said, we have not done the work on this one yet. Kind of waiting for Mother Nature to cooperate a little bit too.
I'll make a motion to approve that drain repair.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The second one is really just for discussion. I got contacted, I believe, at least one of the supervisors had as well, regarding debris in drain 77 open ditch. I know that we've had discussions in the past about the trees as well. So I tried to pull together some information that emailed out as far as thresholds for dollars and advertisements and what have you. The last time that a tree project, a major tree project was done, I think was back in 2001 is when it was done. And that was, plans were put together and the whole 9 yards. Depending on what we're wanting to do, I think we can do it maybe without going through that process. If we're talking about just minor trees in the channel and debris removal, that might be something we can handle just as a repair and not have to have a engineer's report or plans to accomplish that.
There was a firm that did that the last time and then,
And they-
because everything's gonna be bought, most is gonna be carried out of my hand.
It will, I mean, we're gonna tear up people's backyards if you don't, so it's just a matter of getting the debris out is what it boils down to, so.
as I walked part of it, I haven't walked it all. We have, there's cut the usual suspects, the tires, little kids swimming pools and lots of little limbs and things and I think we should get the ball rolling on this. I think as I did visit with Courtney a little bit, and it looks like we did do an assessment in 01 for it. I think some of those property owners up there, it was low. It wasn't outrageous. I think it was like $4 to $8.
Yeah, the minimum size.
So, I mean, it really didn't amount to too much, but it does amount to a lot too. And I think the misconception there is that it's a county thing and it really, the people own it. We're just the stewards of it. And that's the hard thing for a lot of them, don't understand that part of it. So, but I do think that it's probably time to do it again as we walk down through there. I don't want to take and remove trees. I'd rather cut them off and stun them rather than remove them, because I don't want to loosen those banks up any more than they already are. There's some undercuts going on in some of it. So that's gonna, you don't want to magnify that.
And you're talking about in the channel,
In the
very,
channel.
very, very near the channel or in the channel.
Yeah. Now there is concrete in there, and I would kind of recommend leaving that unless it's blocking the path of the water very much or making a dam situation.
I would agree with
I
that.
would like to leave it. It could help stabilize the bank a little bit.
Yeah, I don't think you want to move concrete. You talk about expense.
Yeah, I mean, I know why, my next question was, well, I don't know what the limits are on the bid. I mean, if it gets over 50 or 50,000, if it's under 25.
I believe it's 51, because it depends on what you're talking about drainage districts, because chapter 468 has kind of their own set of rules. They follow a different path than some of the others, but from what I can tell from chapter 468, that 50,000 or 75% of the original cost of the drain. And I know Courtney looked that up, and I believe 75% of the original cost of the drain was around 55,000. So that 50,000 number would be
Pretty close.
Would be the number I think you'd want to use. And
Okay. With all the hand labor, I mean, I know everybody's labors went up, so I mean,
Right.
this could,
it's something we'll have to consider. If it was something that we really think it's going to be above that, then we might have to get into a different.
split it over 2 fiscal years. Is
You
that an
have to do-
option?
You can probably do 2 different projects, but otherwise you'd have to get an engineer's report done and go through the full gamut of a report. But the other thing that to remember well is the cutting trees. If it's anything over 3 inches, we have to follow some rules on threatened and endangered species with bats as well. And that's nothing to be cut between April and October. So.
Okay.
Something we'll have to,
Yeah.
depending on the size of what we're looking at.
Do you recall, Gene, was that a tree service that came in last time?
I can't remember.
Was it right?
Might want to check with Dave.
It,
Maybe you can tell on the
I
drain.
probably
I-
look it up if I knew what year it was. You said it.
I have it. There was 2 people that bid on it. It was Goody and Snyder, and I'm not sure which one got it. They're both very close. But
I was thinking on drain that was someone out of town, I can't, because they went in and cleaned out, because they carried out trash and stuff too, I thought.
That's the part, is some of those lots are just not real conducive for a skid loader, it's just.
'Cause I think they kinda sprayed-
Physically picked up, and it's.
Didn't they spray,
I think so. That's the payment. Goody.
Well, I agree, if somebody local wants to do it, I'm
2001.
more than happy with that.
Properties does that affect that?
See, I
Besides
thought we
the
had
bordering
somebody in there
properties.
since then.
What year was that?
I
It's
can answer
two thousand
that.
one.
2000.
There's
2006.
quite a few.
2000.
Like half the
2006.
city limits.
It's a lot.
There's quite a few.
Is this the last week on your record shows 2006?
There's a bigger one in 2001, I believe, as well.
That might be the one I'm thinking of. But it wasn't cheap, because I think they sprayed them, they cut them, sprayed them, and they cleaned out the ditch. Trash, I'm sorry.
I may not have that along. There's
That's okay.
the DD 77 file is,
This was just parts of it too.
this
It
was
wasn't all
parts.
of it.
Yes, this was parts that, I
Yeah.
don't have the information on the one in 2001. That was the last time that.
And I think the one I'm thinking was before that.
Okay.
Should we,
Because I was thinking that was,
Before my time.
I think it was pretty.
should we try to walk some of that and come up with a plan, or do we just do it all, or do we just look at pieces,
I
or?
think we try to get an idea of what we're looking at, what's
Okay.
gonna have to come out, and then maybe we can even inquire with some local forces of what kind of labor is this gonna take? Because that, trying to estimate that's gonna be
Oh, yeah.
that's gonna be the big thing.
Like I said, if it's too soft, you don't want them running. Now, if they get golf trucksters and things like that in there, those tires are a little more conducive to lawns than
Right.
skid loaders are.
Right. It's the turning movements and,
But if they don't have one, they probably have to rent it, so they gotta factor all that into.
I
So,
was gonna say, would we be better off just getting the thing cleaned at this time and cut the trees maybe in the winter so we can paint there and stuff.
well, I think the trees, the pieces that I seen, I'm really not interested in cutting anything over 2 inches. And I think maybe a couple, 3 feet from the center of the waterway is plenty, because I don't want to get into that's the way a lot of those people bought those properties, because they want the isolation behind them from their neighbors. And I don't want to go in there and start taking all that away, so.
And that was an issue the last time.
Yeah.
So I want to keep that tree.
and there was some agreements made on that as well that we need to dive into. I don't think there's anything down the channel. But I know there was a disclaimer on that agreement that even if there was an agreement made, those trees still, they're in a drainage district, ditch, and by all rights, they can go. So it's a matter of what needs to go and what is able to stay, I guess.
So do we want to just leave the trees all alone and just remove the debris?
No, I think he's right. You need to go
Oh,
down
okay.
in that stream
Yeah,
and get that.
bad part is we haven't had one of those good gully washers to really clean out the little tiny trees that get going, and also the junk that builds up and push it to your other neighbors. That's basically what happens.
I think there's fallen limbs, or either whether they were thrown in there or fallen that are in there as
That-
well.
that-
And that, those are gonna have to get cleaned out too.
Yeah, the fallen
And
limbs,
I
I don't
think
mind.
there's some stuff that I got. fixed back.
Yeah, I say the fallen limbs, I don't mind cleaning up. It's what's been put back there that, and essentially all they're doing is they're, like I said, it's theirs. They're gonna pay for a removal one way or another.
So if we do 50 grand and it puts $5 minimum on every household, how much does it affect per acre on the
Well,
farm ground?
Well, I'll let
Depends on
Courtney
what the
explain that.
Yeah, it depends on what their original assessment was. And that's gonna vary based on the benefit that the farm ground gets from the drain.
Okay.
Closer the farm ground is to the drain, the higher the assessment. for the land
it may have
use.
started off with like a half acre or 20 acres. And it may have been, let's just use the number, it might have been $500. Well, as that has been busted up into smaller pieces for lots, that has cut everything down to the $5 minimum.
Yeah. I have a list from the last time we did an assessment that shows every parcel and what their assessment was. So if you ever wanted to look at that, 'cause there will be some farm ground in there. And if you do 100% assessment,
They may have
they
gotten
may
stuck
get
1,000.
500 or 600, yeah, or more.
You know, or $500 the first time. Well, they're gonna get it again.
And then you look at it, that the stuff we're dealing with is in town.
It's all
You know,
an
so-
urban
Be
issue.
prepared to answer.
But like I
answer
said,
that
the
question.
farmers will benefit because, I shouldn't say the farmers, the crop ground will benefit because of better drainage if there are the dams.
There aren't, things that slow the water process down. I think we should start looking forward, digging into it more. Maybe we can even get it done maybe this year. I don't know.
Yeah, I've been wanting to walk some of that myself and I haven't had.
Yep.
Well, the weather hasn't been real conducive to
No,
wading down through that creek.
nope, I'm perfectly fine with that.
So do you think we can pretty well confine it in that Fiscal area around it down till it comes back out by Grant Road?
I
or-
think you can. I think we can set the limits on what needs to be cleaned and what debris needs to be removed. It's just a matter of probably, again, walking it and determining what those limits are. I think that's you can set those parameters however you want in whether it's an RFP that you put out to local tree people or whoever's gonna look at this work, so.
All right,
Good enough. Next item is department update.
Yep, a few projects that I got going on. The first one is the N3 bridge down by Templeton. They are pouring the second abutment today. We picked a good day for that this morning. But then all the abutment and pier pile will be put in, as well as all the concrete encasement of the piers, and then both abutments. So they'll be they're moving along with the weather. I think they've been doing pretty well. So
I was out the other day, all that's left is the west end.
yep. They're making progress on the Falcon Railroad Bridge, the BNSF bridge. I took some pictures of that when I was down there last time. Look at those. They are going to do. Looks like they are doing some little bit of repair to the substructure as well, jacking it up and trying to level things up a little bit. I think it's going to be a good deal when it's done. It's taking a little bit longer because of what they're diving into. I'd say they're about halfway across the deck right now, but they're working at it. So, and then last thing is our crack sealing project. They did get a couple miles done down by Coon Rapids, E63 east of town on Friday, as well as south of Maple River to Highway 30. Those two small stretches they got done. I think they're going to be starting on N41 up the county line and working their way south now. I know they showed up this morning, wanted to go, but I think the weather and the cold temps, especially with the moisture we got over the weekend, it's probably slowing them down a little bit. I'd have to let it warm up a little bit for that to work. But they'll be here all this week and probably all next week working on that. So
Who's doing
that's Denko doing this one. That's all I had.
All right, any more questions for Zach? If not, let's move along to item number 2, set public hearing for fiscal year 22 county budget amendment.
I believe I sent you all documents on that with your packets. Go ahead and review what
Thanks,
I
Ann.
have. Stop me if you have a question. Most of these were emailed to me with an explanation, so if you want additional information on what they're asking, we can stop and find that. So you can see the overall budget amendment is $464,365. So we are, sorry, that's the balance. Let me try that again. $759,512. I'm just gonna go down this sheet that has the expenditures and revenues broke out. So you can see there's several here for conservation. Let me grab this email because I have a bunch of different stuff going on. Okay. I'm just gonna read you the email he sent me that'll explain all his expenses. So he's asking for $4,000 in part-time salaries, an adjustment for extra hours worked by interns and concession staff last summer and fall. Equipment repairs add $6,000. He had a synchronizer go out on a tractor transmission, so it is being rebuilt and it was an unplanned expense. Parks and maintenance add $5,000. Finish up septic system replacement and also for extra rock / gravel expense for park roads due to increased rock / gravel costs. Major equipment add $2,500. Snowplow and truck we budgeted for ended up being a little more than expected, so he's currently over on that line by that amount. So that's a explanation on his stuff, which is basically the first few things there. After he sent me that email, I called him with a question on the cleaning ed center line. And you can see that function number is 6120, which is a different line on the budget, and it was over. They started taking their uniform costs out of that line for cleaning, and so that's why it's over. So he needs to put $1,010 in that line because they've been taking their Aramark bill out of that this whole year and it didn't budget for that. And then he also asked, and I spelled diesel wrong on the factions, but he asked for $3,000 more for fuel, which doesn't surprise me with the fuel being what it is. The next one you see is the ambulance return transfers. This is a new line item we set up. The way I understand it is the Manning ambulance, which is Carroll County's ambulance, transfers patients from the nursing home to the hospital. And it was always done this way, but he wanted a separate line item to keep track of it. And so they bill the service.
GENT.
Service gets, no. They bill Manning ambulance, whatever that is called, Manning, not Carroll County, but they bill Manning. Because Manning pays the people that are doing it. They aren't on our payroll. Pay them,
They're giving us.
and then the hospital pays them. So it's a convoluted way, but since their drivers aren't our employees, that's the way it's done. So this line item is set up to cover those expenses.
That's not money that's been spent, that is.
We have not, well, we've always done
So
it
he's
that
just
way in
creating
the
a
past,
fund
but he
for it.
says apparently they haven't billed out in like a year or two. Which, look at this email.
So he's
on
just
that.
funding the new line item? Or is that
Yeah,
money that's been
yeah, because
spent?
he got a bill. Let me see. He got a bill from them.
I'm unaware this wasn't.
Yeah, this
the
one's new to
update.
me.
So, yeah, I would, like I
They
said, I'm
got-
not the ambulance
There's
director,
something.
obviously, so I don't.
You're not?
No, I'm not. I'm trying to find his email. So he sent me an invoice to pay, and I didn't have a way to pay it. It's getting paid to the Manning EMS Association. And if you remember when we were dealing with the work comp thing and all that, the Manning EMS pays those drivers. And this is for nursing home returns. If you as a board want his budget set up differently, I'll have to let you know, but- So do you want to, I can leave it when I have to publish the notice, I have to send it today. I can leave it in there, and if you guys take it out, we can lower the amendment, we just can't increase it.
Go ahead and leave it in there and then we'll have a discussion.
Because if we need to remove it, that's not an issue. I mean, when you guys approve it at the hearing, obviously it won't be included, but for publication purposes, I can't.
He's trying to make his whole budget system seem more easy to follow and not convoluted. I'm all for it.
Agreed.
But he's probably trying to keep it a separate line item for.
And I'm doing a horrible job explaining that process of what
No.
they're doing, but
You're not, because that whole department is, it's like a tree with a root system. It's all just, it's different. It's kind of like secondary roads map to try to follow.
okay. So yeah, definitely talk to Jamie. He can
Okay.
explain it a lot better than I can.
Okay.
And if you need me to take it off after you talk to him, I will.
Okay.
All right, so the next one is Comm Center salaries. If you remember, the board approved getting somebody hired. And they had a lot of overtime because they were short a person, so, or short with people being off. So Jason asked for $8,500. That's gonna be kind of split between salaries, like IFRS, all that good stuff.
Going
We're
forward,
gonna
since that new hire, that will.
That's already
alleviate
in
that
the
overtime.
budget
Okay.
for 23.
Okay.
But there wasn't any extra in there for
But
20.
so that 8,500 is supposed to cover him until June 30th then?
That's what he needed in his budget
Projection,
to make
okay.
sure he was in the plus or not in the negative.
Covered.
Last payroll. All right, so this one's kind of an interesting one. So do you remember back in 2019 when the board approved the updates to the elevator? It was like $13,000 or something like that. Well, guess what? We finally got a bill for it, and I didn't have it in this budget because it was from fiscal 19.
Oh my.
Only good thing is the price was the same. So in 3 years' time,
Why
It didn't go
didn't we
up.
get a bill before this?
because they didn't get it done. They couldn't get parts for it.
Oh, the parts delayed it, so they didn't bill until they.
So that's
actually-
what
actually
this
finished
is.
The work.
I mean, we budgeted for it before and didn't spend it. So this is gonna get pulled out of reserves along with everything else. But I thought, when I got the bill, I'm like, didn't we already do this? Well, then I looked back at the board minutes and you
It
guys
was
approved it in
The
2019.
gate and the phone.
Yeah, it was to get the elevator up to safety
Okay,
standards.
right.
Yeah. And after, yeah, so hopefully that will. All right, so don't use it. All right, yeah.
Virtually, I'm here.
Oh, you want to explain yours?
Yeah, I can take the time. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Real well.
Okay, so you notice we have several amendments broken down. I don't know if you have the sheet I sent out. Did you give that to them, Courtney?
I didn't. They have my sheet, which is just kind of a dupe of yours.
Okay, so the total amendment for mine was 35,982.31. So the first line item I'm needing a minute for was $653 for IPers. Must have been miscalculated along with insurance. When I calculated it out, that's how much I was going to be negative at the end of the year. Data processing supplies, I noticed I'm short $5,000. A lot of that was for equipment we've been buying for the jail, and among other items we've needed for the jail, like cables and fibers and transceivers and all that good stuff has been coming out of that line item. We weren't really planning on going anywhere this year, but we've had a lot more conferences and stuff Ben and I have been attending. So we are short on employee mileage. We didn't really budget anything last year. So we were asking for $1,700 to make up for what we paid so far. We don't have another conference till after June, so I shouldn't need to take any more out. Internet fees, that was to cover the increase from Western Iowa Networks. And then under office data and processing, when I projected out my line items, I noticed I was going to be short. You can see if you'd like a breakdown of like what the costs are on each one of those line items, I can show you, but I'm needing 19,000 to cover the cost. And that's for office data and processing. So our dues like for Varonis and all our softwares and stuff coming out of there. And then the last one under data processing and equipment, I was just needing a little bit more money to cover a camera project that we're going to do. And it was $5,000 for the total of $35,982.31.
Just a quick question. The mileage.
Yeah.
That's a lot of miles. That's 3,557 Miles, where are you driving?
We drive everywhere.
It's
It's bet-
also mileage and meals,
Okay,
so. if
Yeah.
you have any-
I was like, dang, did you go to Texas or what?
So,
I think
you know, we were, a lot of the stuff is covered, like, when we go down to Montgomery County and help, like, that's paid through ICIT. But any conference I go to, or when I run around for elections, or when I'm just going between buildings, like all that goes into there. So, and I'm starting to report my quarterly mileage too, where I never claimed that before.
Okay.
Are you logging those miles? You keep a track of that, Dalton?
Yes.
How many miles you total putting on in a year, even the trips to secondary roads and everywhere?
I'm not gonna lie to you. I just started tracking probably about 3 or 4 months ago when I brought it for the quarterly report. That was the first like 3 months I've tracked. So I really am not even sure what I burn.
Okay.
So I can tell you here in the next year once I really track.
We talked pre-budget about
Yeah.
putting them down.
And the camera work, you said, is that gonna about clean you up on all the camera work you need to do?
Yes, so that is replacing all the old system that's in the courthouse right now. All the floors, the courts, everything.
Okay, and they all communicate together.
Yes.
And followed up with the scanning project. There's recovery funds.
Dalton, are you gonna kind of wait to do the camera project until if we do start ripping into some of this HVAC? Cause I hate to see you have to do it twice.
Like honestly, the camera's gonna take forever to get here, just like everything else stuff. So it'll be done by the time they get here.
Thank you.
On mileage that you're putting down for ICIT, are you getting reimbursed for any of those?
So the ICIT one, like if I'm actually going to conference, I don't get reimbursed by ICIT. But if I'm going to like Montgomery County, like I said, to help out with an audit, or went to Ottawa not too long ago, ICIT covers that, and I don't claim any of that out of my budget.
All right, any more questions on the IT area?
Not me.
Okay,
Thank you, guys.
thanks, Dalton.
Thanks, Dalton.
And you do see a little bit of revenue there. He had a check he issued and it actually went to the wrong vendor. And they sent us a refund check instead of sending the check back so we could void it. So I just basically am putting that in the revenues to show the miscellaneous receipt and then put that back in his line. He actually did have to send another check to the correct vendor. So moving down, unemployment compensation. This is kind of a weird line. We don't pay anything into Iowa Workforce when we file our reports. What the county does is if somebody claims unemployment and gets it, they actually comes out of the department's salary lines. Well, we had an employee that retired, I'll say, and filed unemployment. Well, that doesn't make sense. She quit. Say she quit. Anyway, we kept getting a bill, even though she didn't get unemployment, but we kept getting a bill. And then they started charging interest on it. So I'm like, okay. So I called and they're like, well, you need to pay that because they have some long drawn out explanation. Well, now we have a $472 credit with them. And at some point they're going to cut us a check. But I had to take it out of the unemployment line and there was no money budgeted in there because we don't normally spend that. So we do have a credit with Iowa Workforce. I was told we would get a check in the next couple of months, but I can't have a negative line item in my budget. So that's what the $472 is for. I don't know what their reasoning was on that, but when they started charging interest, I figured we just better pay it instead of arguing with them. And then they're said to refund us. The next one is the IEDA CDBG. That's that down payment assistance program. Have a couple more checks we're going to be getting from them. And therefore, when we get a check, we issue payment to Region 12. Those are the amount here, $27,081. You'll see it as an expense and also as a revenue. That's just to get that program done for the year. And that should cover us there. It's just a little bit short. I'm guessing that they had more projects than what I budgeted for. So you can see the overall cost of the amendment in the general fund is $87,612. Moving down, local option. Don't let that fool you. That number is actually CARES money, COVID money. It's in that fund, but it's separate. That makes sense. So we're not exactly sure how much, this is for the reporters project. We're not exactly sure how much they'll get done, but wanted to put something in there in case they start invoicing for the project. Obviously, if it doesn't get spent, it'll just stay in reserves, but that's kind of what she estimated. Maybe they'll get done before the end of the year. As you know, they're downstairs working, so it's good. Okay. Moving on, secondary roads. So he talked about that. This is just showing the expense of $875,000 and then the replacement funds, $360,000. So like he said earlier, the overall cost of his budget is $515,000. We'll dwell on that. The other one is debt service, and that has to do with our bond repayment. I got 2 invoices for that and noticed that there was not, they charge a filing fee of $225 per each bond. And I didn't budget for that. And then the interest, I think what happened was I got it and put in the wrong space. So I'm just got a little bit of interest and filing fee in there, total of $900. That we have it in there to spend. We've collected the revenues, it's just not budgeted for. I didn't get it put on the budget, so not a huge deal. No, it's just, we collected the money.
Okay.
But I didn't put it as an expense in the budget, so when I look at it, I'm short the $900 to write those 2 checks, so it's more of a clerical thing. And debt service is its own baby on our budget, so you have to beat it a penny. So we got overall costs of $759,512. And I mean, you can see a lot of that. This road, because it's $500,000, but those are funds that they have to spend, so won't be getting. Do they have any questions? This should be, well, this will be the last one we do for this year. So,
And when were you wanting to set that for?
May 2nd at 9:30.
Any more questions for Courtney?
Need a motion for set that public hearing.
Please.
I will make that motion to set the public hearing for May 2nd at 9:30.
I will second that.
It's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We're gonna item number 3, county title documents, DOT.
So I received this.
I just wanted to ask about this fire thing.
It's X off the agenda.
Okay, I mean, I don't read it the way Sarah reads it, but fine.
We got that.
And I don't know why, I haven't been in this room in a long time. It seems bigger.
Oh, we thought it seemed
That
smaller.
side seems smaller.
Yeah.
Is it fresh paint? No, I think it just seems.
Two windows, the windows are gone over here.
I know.
Which really
Which normally that would make it
close it in,
a
you
little
think?
smaller. No, I think it's the fresh paint. I think it's. Wait a minute, I was thinking.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John. Sorry. Courtney.
No, that's okay. So I received an email from Jason Christensen. Actually, he brought it in, but it said a review of the records show that these Title VI documents on file for our agency need to be updated. So did some checking. I've talked to Zach. Looks like we did this back in, what year was that? 2012. So what we need to do is we need to approve the assurances and the agreement Even though this is gonna be for right now, the Stock Trail project, we're gonna use like the engineer as the contact, because in the future, and that's the way we've done it in the past, is it's the county's agreement, the county's assurances, but we had the coordinator be the engineer. And that's how it's been set up in the past. So I figured we just continue that because he's the one that's gonna be
Congratulations.
utilizing the federal dollars more than conservation, I believe, but either way. So we need to update our DOT Title VI documents.
We'll get you another hat.
You okay with that, Zach?
I think he already wore the hat. It's just that we didn't.
He didn't have one.
We're playing
Well,
catch up.
and like you said, that you guys were doing the swap thing, so we weren't getting,
There wasn't as much federal aid being used, at least from secondary roads there wasn't, but the trail still would have been that way, but now we're gonna be going back that direction anyway, so it's time to be updated. So there may be other things along the way, but this is the first step in the process for him to be able to receive that money, I believe.
So what do you need from us?
I need a motion to approve the DOT Title VI assurances and approve the Title VI agreement. And then there's places here for the chair to sign and Zach. So the first one I have is the Title VI non-discrimination agreement.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I got another one to go.
Okay.
The next one is the US DOT. I'm gonna call it the non-discrimination assurances.
So move.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
I have your initials on the tape, the little flags that where you sign.
All right, next item on the agenda is the recorder's quarterly report. Ashton, come sit up here.
Good morning.
Days back in the. Good morning.
Good morning.
Recorder's quarterly report. As far as the county fees. Where there's not a lot of differences. We are high in revenue stance, which just means sales have been going for higher amounts, which is what everyone's been hearing about real estate and that. Other than that, there's not a lot of changes. And then on the state report, this quarter is high compared to the previous year. Again, we have the revenue stance is a big part of that. The river's registration fees is high. Those renew once every 30 years. So that's going on right now. And other than that, everything's really similar. And on that note, boat renewals, just as a reminder, boat renewals are due April 30th. We sent out postcards and a press release. There's a $5 penalty. The $5 penalty does not take place until July 1st, but don't let that, don't be confused by that. You customers cannot operate boats on public water after April 30th. It's not expired. The DNR is just not enforcing the late fee until July 1st. So if you're gonna be on public water, you need to have it registered by the end of this month.
So get it done. So get it done.
Just give them more time to wait, but you will still get a ticket. And then new Iowa fishermen and anglers, I say, who are at least 65 and older can now purchase lifetime trout fees. That's new with the DNR. You could always get a lifetime fishing license. You can now do lifetime trout as well. So I just wanted to throw those updates out there. Too.
Lifetime fishing and what?
Trout.
Trout
And
stand.
trout, or lifetime hunting also, but fishing and hunting have been there for a long time. They just added the lifetime trout.
That's over 65.
Yes,
So what's that cost?
I think it's like $66.50 or something like that. So it's $33,
Qualify.
it's $20 for a fishing license, so
I
you
qualify.
pay after about 3 years, it kind of breaks even, I guess.
I qualify.
Does anyone have any questions?
Scanning going good so far?
They just, yeah, they've been scanning nonstop through the weekend, even on Easter. They're, yes, I'm excited. It's looking good.
I was telling them earlier, I was surprised that they started before Easter like that.
They were ready to go. You will be, the imaging, I'll have to, just because over time quality has improved with cameras and everything, we're gonna wish they rescanned everything because it looks so good. I mean, it's a good image. It looks so nice compared to the stuff that's already scanned, just naturally, like anything, but
Technology's really
Yeah.
changed.
it's really looks cool, the scanned images now.
Completion ETA.
Probably the rest of this week, and then they'll be maybe through the weekend if they need it, they'll be done.
It looks like they got, I mean.
Yeah, I wrote down how many, they're gonna be scanning approximately 300, over 350,000 pages
Wow.
in a week, so their shifts are 7 AM to 7 PM, 7 PM to 7 AM, they're just 24 hours, 2 people scanning. So,
So when they get down to yours, are they gonna start on hers then?
well, Archery is doing hers, so that
Oh.
will come hopefully this summer, I thought you had
Yeah,
said.
so the last bill
Fingers
day, you guys
crossed.
approved the first, we have to pay 50% in order to get on the schedule. Yep. So I haven't heard that we're even on the schedule yet, so it may be delayed, but obviously if hers is going that quickly, I have way less, so I'm guessing they won't be here very long to do mine. I wouldn't think. I'm assuming they kind of have a similar
Same
process.
I'm sure going 24 hours a day, I would assume they've got a lot of scanning to do throughout the state of Iowa. I would
They came
assume.
over from SAC, so
Yeah.
that's why they came a little earlier, because they were scanning in SAC, and 2 of them who, instead of flying them back and forth, said they would just come a little early, and I'm like, well, if that can even save us splitting a plane ticket or something, I would assume, I don't know, but yeah, that's why they pushed it up. They must have gotten done in SAC earlier than they thought.
A lot of recovery dollars out there, I assume everybody, and they're
There's a
trying to
lot.
get their share of it too.
Yep. I need to get her done as quick as possible.
So
We're in order for a motion to accept the quarterly report from the reporter.
So move.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Ashton.
thank you.
All right, next item is approved plots. I think we have 3 of them.
Should have 2.
Two of them. Yep, you're right. Does anybody have any questions on these?
Yeah, I'll make a motion on both, and they're both within a couple miles of each other. One's within the unincorporated of Roselle, and the other one's south of Roselle. It's an acreage.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Not second.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so we did receive in our packets for over the weekend, we had received 1 lead and asbestos paint. There's 2 that came in, and they did come in. This one came in right before the deadline, so. I know we didn't have a lot of time to read through the second one, the Impact 7G. But I don't know if you guys had a minute to take a look at the pricing compared to the B2. Is that what they're doing? Yeah, B2 environmental incorporated.
Well, when I talked to John, he was talking like he thought under 10,000 will do it, so.
I think, I was just kind of scoping through this a little bit. When they say roof, are they referring to the roof?
Because they'll be going, poking through the roof.
And then also, so this company will be patch all roof sample locations, roofing compound to best of our abilities. I don't know, there's quite a difference in pricing.
The scope of work the same.
That's what I was trying to figure out quickly.
You want to come on site.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, one thing I see this here, Impact 7G is going to use a, what they call a
Can I see what-
X-ray fluorescent
Okay.
analyzer.
Oh, yeah.
Does that explain?
Actually,
And that might be, and this does not, this
Oh,
one
there it
does
is.
not say
I
that.
didn't.
Gotcha.
I do.
Is this something we want to run past SEH and have them look at them or?
Well, my concern is this
I mean,
one
they
here,
wrote-
this one does say using a radar type thing or X-ray for lead, and that way I was told, this is what
Non-destructive.
Bloom told me. Otherwise, they gotta go in and scratch deep, and then you gotta fix those all up. Whereas a radar or X-ray, they don't have, that repair. I would think if that's the case, and this one is using actual scrapings, it's probably better to spend the money on this one. And I wonder if we shouldn't have John look into it.
Is it gonna cost $12,000 to fix?
To patch all the little
Holes.
spots, that's what I.
Well, but if you start doing as many as they're talking like,
I think we should ask SEH to review,
Yeah, I have an explanation of them.
just to make sure they both meet the scope. We didn't write the scope, they did.
I'm fine, I can forward both of these to John
I mean, we
and
did,
put
we
it on the
just,
agenda next week.
all we asked for was to have them in by Friday.
Correct.
We don't have to make a decision on this. I think, let's take a weekend on this and have John look at it. That X-ray thing could be the difference.
Right, so we're gonna get those emails to John. Next item on the agenda is to approve resolution 2022-009, compensation of members of election boards.
This is in response to the budget work we did for fiscal 23. Like to implement the increase to $12 an hour for election workers. They were at 8.25. So we have a primary coming up in June, and I'd like to give them the additional raise, if you want to call it, for that election. And I do have the money in my budget to cover that. This was a sample that was sent to me by another county, and that's kind of how they did. They said there.
We did have this conversation.
Yeah, we
You guys
discussed
Yeah, we
remember.
did it, but
Yeah,
Yeah, almost.
probably long overdue.
Well,
Yes.
you're having issues getting people. to
It'd
do
be
it.
nice if she could advertise before June with the new rate. I don't know if it will any people.
Yeah, I sent out postcards asking people to work and put, the new rate in there. So
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-009 for compensation of members of election boards to receive increase.
And I will second that.
There's been a motion in a second, roll call.
Osmer,
Yes,
Ruggles,
Yes.
Shetler,
Yes,
Johnson.
Yes.
Miners.
Yes,
Motion carries. I'll pass this around. There's a place for everybody to sign on that.
the final item on the agenda for committee reports is to approve a Class B native wine permit barn owl gift and greenhouse.
I'll make a motion to approve the permit.
A second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, final item is committee reports. Does anybody want to go first?
Sure. I'll go first. I had some contacts on
All
drain 77 last week. That's about the only thing I had. This week I have the paper and the radio
Oh,
today.
I got you.
You guys today, you're gonna do it back to back.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Then you will be in there.
Well, maybe if I'm still alive. Yeah, CADC on Tuesday. Other than that, I'll be out of town quite a bit this week.
I'll go second. Last week, I had the landfill commission board meeting. The assessor meeting, we did that last Monday. You were there too, Rich, for the,
Oh, yeah, forgot about that. That was a 2-minute meeting. I forgot about it.
I did, I spoke with somebody in Drain 77 also. And this week, I have decategorization on Thursday afternoon. That's all.
Well, I can go next. Monday did have the assessors thing meeting. Tuesday, Stephanie and I had met with CADC and officials from Templeton and also from Templeton Distilleries in regard to their project down there, and they're looking at doing so they're wanting some match money for state grant that they're trying to get, which they're building another called brick house, warehouse. And that's a $14 million project. And they're looking at a 427B sliding scale property tax abatement. And I never had heard of that before, but so being it's going to be probably put in TIF, that will be totally on the city's end of it. They're looking for that for matching. I think it's like 400,000, isn't it?
Mhm.
And they're gonna, right now, they're looking at the next, creating 2 jobs within 3 years, and probably from 3 to 6 years, probably 4 more jobs. So that was that. Then I was on the phone with Mike Lewis too. I did have him try to get, I told him it's time to get this thing moving. We need to get something done, and I think he did send out his new comments. And I forwarded it all to you. I think Stephanie, I got it, and I didn't realize till later that you guys hadn't gotten it, so I forwarded it on to you.
So has Badings received that, or is it still
No.
just the board?
That's just
Okay.
us.
So,
And my personal feeling, I'm not willing to sign off on it because I don't think he's kind of reneged on one end. He's changed his mind, and then on the other one, I don't think he's still doing it now.
So my question to you guys is, what is the next step? What would you like to see? Because obviously, I think we're all very clear that we want this to be wrapped up. This has gone on long enough.
I think we need to sit down with him.
Have him come up.
That's perfectly fine.
so if we don't sign off on any of it without a change, would it become litigation between Bading and Shell?
And
No.
How would that go?
I think a waste of time on litigation, to tell you the truth.
No, I don't. I'm
We don't
just
have a
asking
leg
that.
to stand on really, because if we were to pull out the contracts, or maybe he doesn't, but we'd have to look at the original contracts. And I'm sure it says change orders,
Yeah.
you are as the owner responsible for. So I just wanted to get your guys' opinion if we want to have Michael come up here, have a
Can we put him
discussion.
on the agenda for next week, maybe, or a different meeting, a special meeting? I don't know.
Well, I don't know.
I think it definitely deserves further discussion.
Yeah, I think we can discuss it with him. I have no problem with that.
I feel like we've been
I don't know
discussing
why.
for 6 months.
I don't care, but we can do a special if you'd like.
But you don't think we'd have any legal stand?
Only potentially on the fire curtain.
You don't think on the AC?
Mm.
But,
I am not an attorney, don't ask me.
I mean, to me, it's a kind of a no-brainer when you went from 3/4 ton to 2 and 3.
From my understandings, if there's a change order request put in their original contract, you'll see in the subsection, the owners are responsible for anything.
You talk to John about it?
Yes, I did.
Who put the change order in for the air?
Yeah, it depends on who put the change order in.
Probably approved it.
So, I mean, that's up to you guys. If we should get him here, have that conversation, we can have John take a look at it. We'll have to find the original contract. It's frustrating to me.
Yeah, it was more than just oversight. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it wasn't
Yeah.
like, oops, we missed that. I mean, that was, I think that they need some more space or.
You know
Shive
what?
needs
We
more
actually
space.
haven't approved the change order once. Have we?
Air conditioning.
We did want to go ahead and order it, I guess, but we needed to get security.
And I don't know.
Is that what that is? Is the change order for
That's
the
right
air?
here.
Well, this is it, here, yeah.
Oh, okay. It hasn't been approved.
Send that change order.
Yeah, it is.
I think we should try to set up a meeting, where-
Item 20.
even if it's a Zoom.
Yeah, I'm okay with even if it's Zoom.
But do we even need to notify Badings of anything yet, or is it set between Shag Hattery and the Board of Supervisors?
There's a lot of stuff that I think Nick, and that was the other thing, I think there's some things in here that Nick's not happy with yet. And he kind of stated that in this fashion.
I guess the question.
That's kind of
is
between
it-
them and Mike and Biddy, I think, but we have to somewhat listen to the architect on some of those, if he thinks they're reasonable cost or not.
What were you gonna say?
Nothing.
The air conditioning, and I don't know if there's other parties involved with that, this or not.
Well, sure, to get paid for it, yeah.
No, but
Oh, you mean as far as what
were
happened?
did they misread it? Did they? And that's a baiting sub thing, and
But it was never, it was on the blueprints as 3/4 ton, right?
I don't know. I didn't dig into it that far.
But there was never a conversation between the IT department and Shag Hattery, the engineer.
From the get-go.
From the
Yeah, I
beginning.
So
don't
it wasn't
think it was
like
either.
we up, or we requested a change because we were gonna put more equipment in. It was designated according to Dalton, an IT room or server room
And
at the
Carl.
time.
Yeah, Carl made a claim, I know, in the early meetings, that there was gonna be servers in there.
I don't know, maybe you want me to reach out to Michael or do you want to? He's been corresponding to URI, so. I don't know. And it can be via Zoom.
Yeah, if you want to reach out to them, tell them we're not in agreement on this.
Courtney, will you put him tentatively on the agenda for next week?
Talk about it in the open meeting?
Huh?
You gonna talk about it in an open meeting? All right, so that'd be the
You know, I
20.
wonder. They push it further, but you don't think John wants to.
Just scratch it. I'll get a hold of you.
Got plenty of time, yeah.
I mean,
We'll figure that out. I'll keep you
As
guys.
far as I'm concerned, the skills in this change order, we haven't approved that yet.
Okay. Leave that tentative for not today. All
My
right,
biggest brew is that freaking earth thing.
Dean, do you want to know? Do you want me to know?
I can go.
You got anything coming up this week?
Yes,
Oh,
I do.
sorry.
Was supposed to go to CADC, but I'm not gonna be there because I'm gonna be leaving out of town too. But then Friday I had the S Center board meeting.
Yeah, last week had the assessor 15-minute meeting on Monday. And then Monday afternoon, I was in Perry with Fred Long and Jonathan Gano to put the agenda together for the next Raccoon River Watershed Management Authority Coalition meeting. And then I got back in time to go to the Conservation Board meeting that evening. A long meeting, it's a lot of discussion. The first thing of note is the disabled veteran hunt discussion. This is for disabled veterans, and there's a company called Impact. Anyway, it's a group that it's a nonprofit that takes disabled veterans on deer hunts. And have you heard about that one?
No, I haven't.
And deer hunts and pheasant hunts. They did one last year, a pheasant hunt out at Avid. They sign up as many veterans who want to do that. They did a pheasant hunt there. For some reasons that Avid did not, Avid didn't want to do it again this year. And so they're looking for another area in Western Iowa. And then they wanted to do a deer hunt at Swan Lake. And I think there was some real concern from the board about just the pedestrian traffic around the lake. You could have somebody in there and not know it. And so that was a real liability. So I think they're looking at trying to do both those and be able to fill that need for them. It's something that really sounds really good. I mean, I think they get these disabled veterans on UTVs, and they got them a mount so that they can ride on the front of a UTV and go through a switchgrass. And
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Well, there was an article I've seen someplace where they built a special wheelchair, that all-terrain deal that takes it
Get around easier.
and they could swing. In the
Yeah.
past, this guy could only swing so many degrees. This way, he could swing, I think, a whole 360 degrees.
Wow.
so they're going to look some more at that. That took a long time. It was a big discussion. There were 3 guys that came up. One of them came from Pleasant Hill up to have participate in that discussion. The next thing on the agenda was the fiber optics to the cabins and shelters. The young man from Western Iowa Networks was there. He gave a revised quote. It was just, the numbers were the same. It was just if you wanted to pare it down and only wanted to do the East Side Shelter House. So there wasn't much there. The next thing on it is
Did you approve it?
nope. Yeah. The next thing on the agenda was gun range development grant. So you guys have probably had a discussion about
We approved
this.
it, yeah.
So a youth group wants to, they want to get a grant from Midway for $10,000 to have their own shooting range out at, and this is basically a drawing of where it would be, and the landfill, Mary approved that, and so I think that's going to go forward. They gave them the go ahead so that they could apply for the grant and move forward. The next thing on the agenda was the Archery Range, which is right across the road, and since they're going to be probably doing work on the gun gun range, they want to move the archery range from where it is right now, I don't know, probably 30 feet to their own
The
property.
tower or what?
Yeah, the tower, move the tower and everything. Right now it's on property that's owned by Ag Line, and they would just as soon get it off there. And I think since they're going to be there doing the work, they thought they would just move it, which is a good idea. Then we had equipment bids. They had already had in their plans for equipment, a compact excavator that's would take the place of the Caterpillar that they have, the earth mover. They just don't use that as much as they would. It's not a good handy piece of equipment anymore. And so they wanted to go to a compact or mini excavator, and they got two bids, one from Haley Implement, one from Van Wall, and they took the lower bid of $62,912 from Haley Implement on a Bobcat. And then the new Naturalist, the vehicle that had been used by the Naturalist, they decided to trade that off. Jason decided to nix one of the things that he had on the agenda or on his capital expenditure equipment plan to buy this car. So he's going to push the, he wanted to get a 24-foot trailer, tandem dual axle trailer. And he just said, well, he can get by another year with the one they've got so that they could get the Naturalist a new car.
Did they
So
hire a Naturalist?
they did.
Okay.
That's coming.
Okay.
So they went with a Ford Escape from New Way Ford for $21,360. Trail project was next on the agenda. They had some issues with JEO. Things came up, let's put it that way. When JEO was doing work on the trail. And there's so many places where it slopes, it's like has a slope of like 6 inches in some spots, up to 6 inches. So they didn't really want to overlay that. So the best way that they could come up with that fix for that was to grind the trail just like they did around Swan Lake when they paved it. So that way it'll all be level, and it'll be slightly sloped from the center to the edge. But they had original, yeah, there'd be a little bit of crown so the water can run off. But they had a I don't think I guess it's not going to cost anymore because they were going to put a film layer over that before they went right over and that can go away now. So they save money there and they're going to grind it. So they talked about the bid when they let the bids, they've got so many grant dollars to go so far. And then to complete the trail, and they don't know where that point is. So they want to have two bids, a part A and a part B.
One for how much have they got hit $500,000 yet in the private fundraising?
They're pretty darn close. I think as far as matching, I think they're pretty darn close. So, once they can figure out where they're at, they'll have to have two bids, one for the grant, and one for the funding. So that's a little bit, I don't think they feel real comfortable about that, but they're trying to move forward as best as possible. Campground will open on the weekend of the 23rd, 22nd, 23rd. The Naturalist Position, a Kristen Barrett. I think they had 8 applications and 5 interviews, if I'm not mistaken. Kristen Barrett comes to Carroll County from Sac County. She's originally from Sac County. With a starting salary of $42,000, which is an increase from where she was at her former job, and with a 5.5% of the 5.5 she'll also receive that after a period of time, probably July 1st, would be my guess. This is the young lady. It sounds like she is really hitting the ground running. She's got a lot of, she hasn't actually even started yet, but she's got programs, and so I think it's a good thing. There was a short discussion on seasonal help. Looks like they got all they need. So that was Conservation Board meeting. So that was a full day of meetings on Monday, and that was pretty much it. Took several phone calls I have to talk to Zach about. And this week, we just have the Raccoon River Water Management Authority meeting on Friday at the Ed Center. That's all. So that's it for me.
Go. Last week I had Wesco. Everything's going really well there. They are still having some turnover and lack of trying to find employees, just like everybody else. You guys want to see the financials we did? Checks written and the monthly statement, if you want to look through that. Then I had the conference board for board of review, and then Jean covered the CADC as far as the Templeton Rye edition. Then I also had quite a few conversations. I had a conversation with Zach and Baiting Construction, Tony Baiting. We will be having another conference board meeting coming up because we do have another member going to be joining the board of review. This week, today, I have Carroll area daycare today at 4:30. I'll reach out to them. That is it. Dalton or Ben, is there any comments online?
No comments online.
Ben? And Courtney?
I have no comments. Next week is a bill day. I've got the asbestos lead testing proposals back on the agenda, and a Brad Henners will be here. He's with Globe Life Family Heritage. That's the other person that reached out about employee benefits, and since we heard from the other gal, we'll hear from him as well. That's all I have for next week. Right.
I'll make the adjourn. Second.
Then I'm not sure in a second, any more discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries.